Alright, let's look at number 9 on the Unit 1 review. You might notice that the top kind of looks like 2x squared plus 3x minus 2. And if that were the case, then you'd be like, oh, well, I could factor this. Alright, and depending on how you learned how to factor, you might have learned to multiply the first and last coefficient, and that would be -4. Two numbers that multiply to give you -4 and add up to 3. Right? So that would be 4 and -1. So x plus 4 and x minus 1. But since we multiplied by 2 at the beginning, we have to go back and divide by 2. So we end up with x plus 2, move the coefficient to the front, and 2x minus 1. So that's essentially what this is going to be right here, except it's just cosine x instead of x. So this is going to be cosine x plus 2 times 2 cosine x minus 1 all over 2 cosine x minus 1. Alright, now I hope somebody called me out because I did not do what I always tell you guys to do and plug it in first. So, if you do plug in pi over 3, 2 cosine squared of pi over 3 plus 3 cosine pi over 3 run out of room minus 2. The cosine of pi over 3, think about your unit circle. The cosine, that's going to be 1/2, and 1/2 squared is a 4th. 2 times a 4th is a 1/2. And then we've got plus 3 times 1/2. So we've got 1/2 plus 3/2, which is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0 over. And then 2 times the cosine of pi over 3. Since cosine pi over 3 is 1/2, that ends up being 1 minus 1. So it is indeterminate. Alright, so let me continue down here. So 2 cosine x minus 1 over 2 cosine x minus 1, that will remove that whole. Alright, so now we can solve the problem. The limit as x goes to pi over 3 of cosine x plus 2, the cosine of pi over 3 plus 2 cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. 1/2 plus 2, that's 1/2 plus 4 over